We have our white underbase registered to our film, and I've taped up all of our screens and I've put them onto our press. Basically like to place them lightest to darkest. So I have white, yellow, red, blue, and then a top white. While our screens are drying, I wanted to show you our classroom. This is where we start each morning of our 2-day class. We talk about color separations, artwork, film output, different ink types and additives, and a whole bunch of other info. Now I'd like to show you the equipment in back. This is our classroom, and we are pretty well equipped here with a Riley Hopkins 6-color 4-station printing press. And this is the Riley 360, and it has jumbo platens on here. These are 22 by 16, I believe. So this press is great for doing larger prints, and it holds registration very well with the side clamps. If we move to our conveyor dryer here, we have a forced air conveyor. Does a great job curing water-based and plastisol inks. And then our other press over here is the Riley 300 6-color 4-station. This is equipped with rear clamps, which I find very adequate as well. Both presses love them. We also have our flash dryers. We dry the ink in between colors with our flash dryers. This is a BBC 18 by 18, pretty basic unit. It's a top seller. It's called the Affordaflash. And then on our bigger press over here, we have the BBC Black Flash, and this unit is 18 by 24. This is really what you want if you're printing bigger prints on these jumbo platens. You want to be able to cover the whole imprint and dry each color in between the imprint. As you can see, we have a small darkroom set up with a few screen racks in here. These are the X20 screen racks, and they hold 20 screens. They can hold 20 by 24 outer diameter, or they can also hold 23 by 31. I have a safe light in here with a yellow bulb so that I can kind of see the mesh counts on these screens. So this is our washout and reclaim area. This is a washout booth by Scream, and we also have a filtration unit under here that catches all the solids before the water is pumped with a sump pump into the sewer. It's very important that you don't wash a bunch of solids from your screens into the sewer. It can clog and cause you problems there. This one is backlit, which is very helpful for seeing if you've adequately rinsed out your screen and gotten all of the emulsion out for a good print area. You also notice we have a dip tank here. We don't have any chemical in this dip tank, and you'll see when we burn our screens in a couple minutes. We pre-develop the screens by putting them in a tank of water only. What that does is loosen the emulsion and makes it easier to rinse them out in the washout booth. So this is our washout station. I feel like we have a pretty decent small size shop here for our classroom. It's a very realistic look at what you'd want to have if you open your own small shop. So we're gonna coat 6-pack of screens. These are 230 mesh. It's a nice tight mesh. We have some halftones in here, so a 230 is going to hold those halftones nicely. First thing I wanna do is check my scoop coater, make sure there are no nicks or scratches. There's a sharper side and a duller side. We're gonna use the sharper side. Just wanna make sure there's no dried emulsion or anything on there, and that feels good. We're running CCI Photo Blue Emulsion today, so we're gonna fill this a little less than half full. We're gonna start, make sure you hold the screen in the middle. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to do that with my left hand, and with my right hand I'm going to come over and start about a 1/2 inch from the bottom, and I'm going to tip it forward. I'm not going to tip it all the way forward. I'm just going to tip it until the emulsion meets the mesh all the way across. I'm going to start to come up. With my left hand, I'm going to come up and end at a 90-degree angle. Don't pull the scoop coater away. Just tip it back, let the emulsion run back in, and give it what we call a little shimmy. So that way we didn't spill any emulsion. We put our scoop coater down right there, and we'll flip it end over end. You want to get the emulsion in between these little mesh fibers, little knuckles. You want to get the emulsion in between all of them. So for that reason, we flip it end over end. We'll go ahead and coat this side. You want to have a good amount of pressure. So really trying to get the emulsion between all of the fibers. Shimmy, shimmy, and set it down. So now we're going to finish by coating the screen on the shirt side or the print side. We're starting at a 90-degree angle here. We're going to get in here and just kind of commit, and we're going to see the emulsion touch all the way across, then start to bring it up. We're going to end about a 1/2 inch from the top. Let the emulsion run back into the coater, set it down, and there we have our coated screen. This is what we call a 2/1, which means we coated it twice on the shirt side, once on the print side, 2/1. We're gonna let this dry horizontally, and we're gonna keep the emulsion on the bottom, and it's gonna dry that way. So we've coated our screens, they're drying in the darkroom. We turned on the heater fan. Those should dry pretty quickly. We're gonna make sure we get this emulsion put back in the container and we clean out our scoop coater. These are called cleanup cards. They come in boxes of 500. They're very handy to have around. Use them all the time for stuff just like this. So I'll card this back into the quart container, and then I like to fold this guy so I can get in that V, all of that emulsion back in the container. And you don't want to leave the scoop coater with emulsion in it hanging out longer than you have to, because this stuff dries pretty quickly. And once it dries, it can really kind of lock up on you. Make sure that vacuum seal is locked, and that will preserve our emulsion. You always want to keep your emulsion in a dark place away from the sun. And though it's not cool right now, when we have the heater off, it's a cool dark spot to keep our emulsion. So that's great. You can also keep it in the refrigerator. That will work too. A lot of printers do that. So let's go to our washout booth and get this thing washed out. You can see here, I love to run the garden hose with the regular garden head, and then I have a pressure washer. You don't want to clean this out with a pressure washer. That's why it really helps to just have a regular garden hose here as well. So we'll spray this out. I'll use a scrub pad like this. It's somewhat abrasive, but not so abrasive that it'll scratch the scoop coater or even screen mesh. These are very useful to have. We're in a great spot here. We're waiting for our screens to dry. We are going to prepare our white ink. I'm going to take our International Coatings Cool White, and I'm going to mix it into a mixing container with about 10% of our Century Clear. And that's going to create a more pliable plastisol that's softer to the touch as well. We have a gram scale here. You can buy one of these at Target or on Amazon, pretty cheap, probably 20 bucks. And we have our quart container. Let's get some plastisol ink in here. This is how you open these bad boys. Use an ink spatula. And then you want to modulate your ink anytime you're getting ready to print. You want to stir it up a little bit, because once you stir this ink, it becomes easier to work with, especially on press. Anytime you're showing up in the morning, you're ready to print, you absolutely want to get this ink going by stirring it up. So I'm going to aim for about 400 grams of white. See how this goes. 390. Get another 10 grams. Keep whole numbers because, you know, I'm not great at math. We are now ready to get our screens out and put our films on the screens and expose them, rinse them out, and set up the print. So we're gonna run our underbase white probably on a 160 mesh. And when we place these films onto our screens, we're gonna put the film in the same spot on every screen. That ensures that when we put them on the press, we'll be able to line them up pretty easily. This is my white, underbase white right here. And the way to do this, you wanna read any text on your film and place it face down. So when we put this on the press, it'll print this way. Another way to make sure that your film's placed correctly is the ink side needs to go on the screen. And I like to burn the images starting about 5 inches down. Now I'm gonna measure to my registration mark, which is about 4 inches. So 4 inches there, and I have a center line. I'm gonna put it at 10 inches wide because our screen is 20 inches wide, so we'll go 10. We assure that that is center justified, and the middle of our reg mark is 4 inches down. So we want the same thing on every screen. We'll also just make sure that film is centered just by justifying it with the T-square. And this does not have to be exact, but it has to be fairly close. Now that my screens have all been exposed all through this part of the process, I'm gonna lift up the roll-up door so I can see better in here and I can make sure they're washed out correctly. This is my underbase layer right here. Rinsed out very easily. Usually hit it from both sides, and I give it an inspection here. And if you're ever at this stage of the exposure and you're wondering if something should be there or not be there, and you can't tell because there's a lot of detail in the art, you just grab your film and look at your film and look at your art and make sure that it looks how it's supposed to. I've burned this one a lot, I've printed it a lot, I know we're good to go, so I'm gonna put it out in the sun here to dry. We're actually gonna put these back in our screen room to dry because it's way too windy out here. They're gonna get dust kicked all over them, and they're also gonna blow over, and I really don't wanna destroy the screens that we just rinsed out. Your palettes must be sticky. If you print a shirt, you print the first color, and your palette's not sticky and your shirt moves, your second color will not line up and your print will not look good, and you don't want that. So for that reason, palettes must be sticky. We have a little bit of time while our screens are drying. I wanted to apply a little bit more of our liquid adhesive to our platens just to make sure sure that they're nice and sticky, and we're using a scrub pad here to apply this and just kind of evenly coat our platen. We have a pretty decent sized print, so I need to make sure the bottom's sticky and the top. So you don't need to scrub too hard, because if you start scrubbing really hard, you're going to lift up the lint that's already stuck to this. You don't really want that. We're just trying to get it sticky again. And I am putting these platens underneath the flash dryer because this stuff is heat activated, and I want to know kind of how much I have on here and whether it's sticky enough. The other ways of using palette adhesive are aerosol, which I'm not a huge fan of. It's very convenient, but when you use aerosol spray, you're atomizing it. It's just kind of going all over everything, and then dust and debris will stick to that, and that's how you see your press starts looking like it's growing hair. This is CCI Top Bond palette adhesive and the scrub pad to put it on there. When your palette gets super linty and it has a texture on it, you take this same scrub pad, you get some warm water and you get it wet, and you scrub all that lint off of there, and then you reapply your adhesive to retack your palette. You also want to use palette tape. This is a layer of tape that's on this palette. Once the palette tape gets too littered with debris and it's too bumpy and you can't really clean it off, you're just going to peel that palette tape off and put new palette tape on. That's the easiest way to go about it. There's some other products we'll do in future videos that are palette gel. Those are entering the market these days, and I think there's a good spot for them in the market. They can be convenient, but we'll get to that later. I also like to use test squares or test pellets, especially when I've just put a bunch of adhesive onto my platen. I'll use these to put down as a first layer, and then I'll put my film on top of this, because I don't really want to destroy my film, and we're going to register our print to the film. So before I get to that, I'm actually going to grab my screen for the underbase, and I'm going to see where we should place the film. It's a little bit tricky because you have to get the film onto the platen close to where the screen's going to kind of come down naturally. Our underbase screen looks pretty dry. You want to fold this in a U, kind of backwards with your forefingers. The tape down to the screen mesh first. Don't touch the frame. First go to the mesh, and then use your fingers to jam it into the corner and to stick to the frame. And then you want to go in a circle if you like, because if you tape it in a circle, you'll be able to pull one edge of the tape all the way up and it'll come all the way around. It'll come off. Obviously, you can see I have not taped off my registration marks. That would be saved to last so that we can register the print with those reg marks. So we want a nice even off contact. We're printing on the Riley 300 6-color 4-station. It's all wrenchless, so it's really nice to be able to adjust your off contact without any wrenches. So if you look closely here, this printhead has a notch in it. If you see that notch, it should be centered over that hole or pretty close. And that tells you you can still go back pretty far or forward pretty far or to the side, either side, without going to the end of where you're capable of going, essentially. So if these are not all zeroed out, what'll happen is you can register the first screen. And if it's too far out, you'll bring the next one over and you won't be able to register it that far to match the color. Zero out all your print heads first, because it will save you trouble in the long run. Okay, I use my center lines to center justify the print on the platen. Off contact is good. And then lift up my screen, and then we're gonna figure out where we place our first film. So I can see the center line is just past the platen right here. Stick it down right here. I'm gonna be able to bring that screen down and register it perfectly to this. All right, we got it pretty secure there. Just bringing it down, letting it fall where it falls naturally. It's not too far off. This is how you unclamp the print head so it can move freely. I would encourage you not to unclamp it, unwind it like 3 turns. You only want to unclamp it maybe 1/4 of a turn so that the print head can move freely. And I'm going to line up what I call the horizontal reg marks first. So my print head's loosened. I'm gonna use this one. This one's gonna bring it out that way. This one's gonna bring it out the other way. These two do exactly the same thing, opposite each other. And then the last one we'll bring the whole screen over. So we got XYZ micro registration. You can see this. I'm gonna line up first. I'm gonna line up the horizontal line. So all of the lines that are in my registration mark like this. Horizontally, I line up first. And then now I'm gonna use the Z registration to move the whole screen over and drop it into registration. And this is called micro registration. So it's like you're moving it just a little bit. That's all looking good to me. So I'm gonna clamp these down, and then I'm gonna bring up my screen. I'm gonna let it drop. I'm gonna check it again. This is the part of the process where you wanna take your time and be thorough. We have our white underbase registered to our film, and I've taped up all of our screens and I've put them onto our press, just clamping in one side. Basically like to place them lightest to darkest. So I have white, yellow, red, blue, and then a top white. Red and blue probably could go either way. It doesn't really matter that much. Our screens are taped up, registered, and ready for a test print. So let's do that. That would be a common question that I would get. They can matter if you're on a very low mesh count. If this was a 110 and the ink could flow through very easily, then you might see those streaks in the print. But we are on a 200 mesh, and mesh is so tight, such a tight weave, that it doesn't let ink through very easily. You're not gonna see any of those streaks in the print. Another question is, do you need to have the screen off of the shirt when you flood it? And the same principle applies in that if we're on a 110 mesh, you can get ink on the print area if you have it down when you flood it. So you would flood it when it was up, but it doesn't matter to me that much. I'll flood it with it down on the shirt and the print comes out fine, especially on a tight mesh like this. Looking pretty good. If you look at these top registration marks, pretty happy with how they're covered. I think our print will flow a little bit better once the ink continues to heat up. That registration looks good to me. I think we're on the right track. We're laying down our top white. Our print is looking pretty damn good, if you ask me. We're just about there. I'm not gonna make any changes to my registration. I think it's looking pretty much on. That's good. Pretty happy with everything. So it's much brighter where the hand is and the rabbit and the eye and the bottom of the text here. Has a nice highlight white, gives it that little more dimension. Highlight is always good. A dark highlight or a light highlight on a multicolor print like this can be used to really accent and wake the print, bring it to life. We place these reg marks on the top and bottom of the screen so that we can usually get away with just putting one piece of tape across here, just to make sure they're masked. Also, when you're moving these screens around, you don't want to shove them very hard. You want to be pretty easy on them. The reason why is you've just spent the last half hour getting them into perfect registration. The last thing you want to do is shove the screen and knock it out of registration, because then your print won't look right and you'll have to go back to the drawing board and try to register it again or fix it. You don't want to do that. Registration marks taped off, ink is on the screens, print is set up and running. If you have another person working with you, the best way for them to help you would usually be to catch the shirts at the end of the conveyor dryer and do quality control, make sure there are no pinholes, make sure the placement is correct, and there's nothing going on with the print. They'll stack all the larges with the larges, the mediums with the mediums, keep them all separated until they're ready to be boxed up for the customer. Early on in screen printing, I think my buddy came to help me and he's like, well, I'm gonna get on one side and you're gonna get on the other and we're gonna print. It doesn't really work that way, especially, you know, once you catch your rhythm, you're gonna be going pretty quick and another person will just kind of more or less get in the way. When you're on an automatic press, however, it really can help to have a shirt loader and an unloader, but that's kind of that's a little bit different and a step beyond what we're doing here. There's a single loader and unloader, and if you have a buddy to help you out or your spouse or whatever, have them at the end of the conveyor dryer, like I said, doing quality control and helping you keep all of the sizes arranged for the order to go out. So let's get our first test print on here. You want to open it at the bottom and you're going to put it pretty much almost all the way onto the platen, and you're going to clear it underneath, and then you're going to pull it all the way on. The way you get the shirt where you want it is to lift it off the platen and pull back toward you, and then drop it where you want. We have this print set up to where I'm draping the collar just over the edge of the platen, and that's where I want it. If you need to make an adjustment, you don't want to come over here and like pull it that way or pull it this way. If you need to make an adjustment, you're going to pull it all the way onto the platen again and lift it up and back and drop it where you want it. The trick to this is that exact thing, knowing where to lift it up and drop it. If you try to pull it just straight back, it's going to stick to the platen. It's going to be a little bit harder to get it where you want it, and it's going to elongate the shirt. You don't want it elongated because your print's going to be funky on there. Now for our white, I can flood this and clear it through the mesh with two hits. So I'm flooding it and clearing it twice. And all of my ink is through my screen mesh, which is really what you're trying to achieve. You're going to get it all through there and onto your shirt, and you're going to push it into the shirt fibers. So while I'm loading my next one, that one's under the flash dryer. this case, the blue, it's a little bit harder to get through and get good coverage. But actually, it's looking pretty good. I was gonna say I might add another stroke to the blue. I might hit it one more time, but I think we're good. Plus, it takes a little bit of time for the ink to get flowing. All right, finished with our top white here, and then we're gonna pull this one off and go through the conveyor. All right, we're down to our last couple prints here. Overall, for a short print run, I would say it went pretty well. That being said, short print runs can really bite you in the butt if you're not careful. So what I would say is pay attention to all of those details and take your time. Easier to take your time doing it right the first time than rushing through it and having to do it again. Also, for cleanup wise, I'm gonna leave these screens up because I might do another print run. If I was not going to leave them up, I would card all the ink back into the containers with some cleanup cards and then take them to my washout booth and probably reclaim them. But that's another video. So we're pretty much done with this one. All of the products that we used in this video are available on our website, norcalsps.com. We also help screen printers with any part of the process. If you need a pre-burn screen, we can do that. If you need films to burn your own screens, we can do that. Yeah, we're here to help. If you got a problem, get in touch with us and we can help you through it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions about anything, any comments, please leave them down below. Try to respond to everything. And thanks a lot for watching and keep on printing.